I'm talking here today from the perspective as an internet researcher, because also as an internet researcher, we are kind of confronted with an unstable object of study. This is often discussed in terms of ephemerality of the object. Yeah? Okay. And the question is, how to make the medium permanent, so we can study it with care. And so my interest in the web archive is also then as an object of study, because the shape of the archive kind of informs what I can ask the archive. To place this talk in a larger perspective, my research project is about national webs. And it's a means to think nationally with the web, and it might seem counterintuitive at first because dominant ideas of the web are so global. And this kind of originates from the 90s idea of cyberspace, which is a universal space and which parallels kind of ideas of disembodiment and identity play. Crucially, cyberspace is a place that is disembedded from reality. And after 2000, cyberspace was kind of confronted with what I call the national term, and this can be seen in a number of places. What might be very familiar is Google.com automatically redirecting to the location you're at. So Google.com here becomes Google.nl, and you get a totally different result page. Another thing is, for instance, this video is not available in your country. Intellectual property is really also very dominant in the nationalization of web content, I would say. You might also think in terms of language. English used to be really the dominant universal language, and the trend is that there's a lot of clustering happening on the web based on a shared language. To move to the web archives, the most exhaustive project in the field is, of course, the Internet Archive, which originated from the cyberspace period in 1996. And this can also be seen in how the archive is set up. It has, first of all, the object of the scope of the collection is the whole internet, which is fairly broad collection aim. And secondly, when you look at the archive or the interface to the archive, the Webback Machine, what you immediately notice is that you query it by URL and then browse from that point on. So it's kind of characterized by browsing instead of the current searching that's much more dominant. And the Internet Archive therefore kind of privileges single-site histories instead of researching its context. The Internet Archive did emerge from web company Alexa, and Alexa provides all the crawls and donates it to the archive. And also the selection of websites is based on user traffic data. So if you have the Alexa toolbar installed, every site or every page you visit will be included in the archive. So that is a very smart way to start thinking on which pages should be included in the archive. So after the Internet Archive in 1996, there are also in web archiving a number of initiatives emerged with a national focus. And the general thought behind it was that national web archives can best serve local wishes and demands and serve the local community best, researchers, general public, and historians. As an example, we will have a look at the Dutch Web Archive, and that is created and maintained by the Royal Library of the Netherlands, the KB. But before we go to that project, let's get an idea of the size of the Dutch web. Yeah, the .nl domain, country domain, is the fourth largest country domain on the web. After China, Germany, and the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, or .nl, has 3.2 million sites. That's really an enormous amount. A second way to look at the size of the national web, because of course .nl is not the whole Dutch web, you could argue. This is a pie chart, and these are all the domains registered by Dutch. So as you can see, we're kind of a .nl people, because 70% is .nl, and well, I was kind of surprised by that. I thought .com and .org would be very much more present here. And a third way to start looking at the national web, or how we might think of demarcating that space, is by looking at what do we Dutch people find relevant sites. This is a screenshot from Alexa.com. They also have a top 500 of each country, and these are the most visited sites in the Netherlands, according to Alexa. So on one is Google.nl, second Hives, third Windows, Live.com, YouTube, Google, MSN, Nu.nl, it's a news site. So Marktplaats is also there, and Wikipedia. So these are the sites that we think are important by the number of visits. So these are only three ways to start thinking about how to kind of define the national Dutch web space from by web means. And this is the definition of national aspect as is used by the Royal Library of the Netherlands. So, let us pause a minute here, because although, they created a new definition of what is Dutch web content, and they all sound or seem technically feasible, except the last one, point D. Up until this moment, it is not possible to technically or automatically define content that is aimed at the Netherlands. And this makes it highly unlikely that this Dutch web can be archived. So what the Royal Library of the Netherlands has done, they decided to leave this definition and select manually select sites, and they started with 100 sites, it became 400, and now just over 1,000. So and they archive them very well. For me as a researcher, I'm kind of interested in the whole dynamics of websites. So the contribution I would like to, or the thing I would like to put forward here is, to ask how else could we approach the object of collection, the Dutch web. And first of all, what I think is important, if you start web archiving, it is most easy and most effective to follow the technical possibilities of the medium. You can automate a lot of things, which leaves you with a lot less work. And besides that, with not only focus on the website itself, but also the context and the prominence of the websites in a particular period. Yeah, the first point calls attention to the challenge to develop methods that follow the medium to automate the collection process. And you could, for instance, think of, it's fairly easy to schedule Google.nl, because Google takes into account all the links made to websites, so it's not only considered relevant by Google, but it's considered relevant by a large group of people. So this particular query is .nl, and you kind of see this similar list as that one provided by Alexa.com, also nu.nl, Startpagina, Google, OV, Buienradar, Telegraaf. Well, and with Google you can kind of capture 1,000 results at a time, and if you would capture that over time, you could see the relevance of a particular source in a particular period. Yeah, that would kind of provide context for sources or websites, the Born Digital. So this is only one example, of course, and the questions I would like you to leave you with is, what would the National Web Archive look like when the focus is on capturing hyperlinks, search engine results, and other digital objects, such as the tag? So not only focus on the HTML page or the JPEG file, but also the objects that kind of make the relations between the websites and the objects. What are aspects, or what kind of objects are relevant to save and why? Because each of these objects kind of tells a different story. So if you would look at hyperlink structures, they might be viewed as acts of association. So if links die and emerge between websites, what would that information provide us about the context of a particular website and its network? And thirdly, can we learn from how born digital devices, such as search engines, blogging platforms, and other recommendation systems, make use of these objects, and how can such uses be repurposed for web archiving? So, yeah, that's what I wanted to leave you with. Are there any questions?
Much too clear what Mr. was talking about. Have you heard the word archive too much today, maybe?
Maybe can you say just a little bit more about search? Maybe can you just say a few more sentences about search engine result as a digital object?
As a visual object?
As a digital object. Right?
Digital object,
or
yeah.
Nationally important digital object.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like a little hard to put my mind around it yet. So.
Okay.
It's great.
Yeah, it's of course, Google has a PageRank algorithm, and in the past it used to be fairly simple. They
200 variables, right?
Yeah. It's innumerable now what to take into account, but the basics still remains that it counts hyperlinks, and also if you your website receives a link from a site that itself gets a lot of hyperlinks, then it's considered more relevant. And what's behind the search engine result page is that every hyperlink made is still a human act. So it's a byproduct of human activity, if you will. So archiving search result pages, or the prominence of sites therein, is also a means to kind of delegate which sites are important to archive to what a lot of people think relevant. And if you look at,
So search engine result, so it's not like search engine result by itself, but almost like an index of what people found relevant on a particular topic at a particular moment.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just as a footnote, this often happens to me when I'm traveling.
This often happens to me when I'm traveling. I looked something, did a Google search in the US and found something. I traveled to another country, come here for example. I can't remember the URL and say, oh, I'll get it for you in a second. Type it into Google, and of course, none of it shows up anymore.
Yeah.
And it's always mystifying to me. I think that shows you that these objects differ from country to country.
Yeah. Exactly.
Can I please? You raised some really interesting questions here. And I wonder, I know you're not very deep yet into the research, it's sort of in the beginning, but have you come up with pushing these further towards hypotheses or begun to establish positions with respect to these questions? Because I think they're very important for the questions of this conference. You know, archiving material, going beyond the web page, going beyond that, and understanding relationships and links as a dynamic process. What are your positions with respect to these questions? What seems to be most important?
Yeah, because I of course or stand there as a web researcher in the first place, and yeah, on the live web nowadays, I mean, it's kind of similar to I think the challenges that web archiving initiatives and projects face. Is kind of how to capture or how to make sense of this enormous amount of data that's on the web. And by focusing on these technically identifiable and mappable objects, such as the hyperlink or as the tag or result pages, is a means not to kind of struggle with the web's ephemerality, but rather instead kind of flow on it and capture it. So that is kind of within the Digital Methods Initiative, I think the most important finding, so that the methods can make use of the medium instead of kind of work against it or struggle with it. The hypothesis really relating to my national web research, that's really another, that's a whole different field. I would love to talk to you in person about it.
Okay, we can do that. Can I ask another question?
Yes, of
related to this? Is this a matter of urgency? Are we losing information about relationships and links and these sorts of things from the past that we can't recover? And is it important to take steps to preserve this information moving forward so that we can use this information for research in the future?
Yeah, I think so, and it also depends on your topic. I mean, it can be a very specific topic that's on the web and you want to kind of follow that over time, but it can also be, for instance, you just mentioned that the Google results change so dramatically over time. And also if you kind of want to critique Google for their information politics, I mean, there is a lot of things that I know about Google and how they kind of presented the results to me. That's only in my memory. And I do not have any proof of it from how Google was in the past. National Google's is only a few years old. Yeah.
Martina, do you have a last question?
There's an element of territoriality that I didn't hear you mention, and I wanted to know if you'd investigated it. Is where the servers are located physically, geographically, and I do know that it makes a difference, and it's seldom an issue seldom mentioned. But I would want to know if you tackle into the issue where the physical server that hosts the data is located. Like there might be a lot of data being hosted physically in Holland, for example,
Yes.
and it would make a difference.
Yes. Yeah, that is actually information that you could also automatically retrieve, because there are all these WHOIS databases you can access online, and therefore for every or for all websites you can find who registered it and where that person lives, but also where the information is physically located. And with DMI and GovCom.org, we made a few maps, and one was of Palestinian websites where they were registered as well as posted, and all the physical data was in the US. So that's kind of I'm not sure whether that answers your question, but
Yeah,
it can
no,
be.
I just wanted to put my finger on that subject because I think it's a very important subject, and it's it's not, especially concerning issues of copyright also, that
Yes.
the physical data is hosted in a country and it falls
Yeah.
under the laws of that country physically. France uses it a lot, yeah. So, yeah. Well, thanks for raising the national issue, I think it's important.
Thanks very much, Esther, again. Thank you.